Today we're going to be talking about conditional statements, a very quick, hopefully, introduction to how if statements work in Python. I'm going to use my balloon pop challenge from a little ways back. So this, I already have this set up. If you want to go check out the challenge and solution video from earlier on in the playlist, feel free to. But the way this program works is it uses on mouse release to depress a plunger and kind of blow up this green balloon. And what I want to do now is once the balloon gets past a certain point, I want it to pop. To be able to do that, we need to use a new structure inside of our Python programming language called an if statement. So I'm going to write it right over here. It's going to happen to my on mouse press because I want it to pop if it's bigger than a certain size. The radius is starting at 10. Let's see. I want it to pop maybe here. So let me check its current radius. The current radius is 218. So maybe once I pass like 210, I'll pop. So here's the way the new if statement structure works. First of all, you're going to start by deciding where you want the program to make a decision. The idea of an if statement is you're going to check whether or not if something is true or false, and then do something or not do something depending. I'm going to choose to put it inside of my on mouse press function, so it needs to be indented just like all the other code that is inside of this on mouse press function. I'm going to write if, and then the way it works is very similar to a function. You write if, and then some conditional. There's no name for the if. It's just saying if. Inside the parentheses, you have some condition that you're going to check, and then a colon. And see, when I hit enter here, it actually automatically indents again. And what this means is that this part that we're going to fill in a moment, this is inside of this if statement. And since the if statement is inside of that function, I need to indent twice. One for the if to start, and then one more, to show that this bit of code is inside of the if. So what I want to do is if my balloon, oh, I misspelled balloon. Let me just quickly fix that. Ooh, that entire video I misspelled balloon in, didn't I? Whatever. Okay. So if my balloon dot radius, and we'll get into those details maybe in a later video, maybe later on in this video. You can check if something is greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, exactly equal to, or even not equal to. And as we see more examples of if, and I think I'm going to have multiple videos introducing if, we'll see how to use each of those. So I'm going to say if my balloon.radius is greater than, what did I say over here? 210 maybe? 210. If my balloon.radius is greater than 210, then I want to pop the balloon. And it's useful, especially when you start using if statements at the beginning, to write some comments. So I'm going to say if the radius is bigger than 210, pop the balloon. So this first line is going to check if this part is true. If it is true, I will then do what's inside of the if statement. So I'm going to set the balloon dot visible equal to false, and maybe I'll create a label that says what's the coordinates of the balloon? 100, 200. So a label that says pop at 100, 200, just so we can see. All right, let's see if this works. And then we'll kind of move from there. So let's see, we're getting to 106 radius, 162. Should pop soon. Hey, there it goes. So let's do something really quick to kind of show. What else should I do? Maybe I should put, well, all right, we're gonna leave it like this. So let me take a quick screenshot over here just to describe with some drawings, getting kind of fancy, exactly how a if statement functions. So we have our if, And we are checking to see whether or not the radius is bigger than 210. So there are two parts to it here. We've got the conditional. Well, we've got, this is an if, right? We're saying that it's an if. Over here, this part is the condition. It's going to check whether or not we're actually going to do the thing, right? And then over here, this part underneath and indented is the action if the condition is true. Action if, maybe I should have made this a capital F, if condition is true. And this is the anatomy of every single if statement. You're going to have an if and then some condition that you check. If something is greater than or less than something else, if it's equal to something else. If this condition is true, if this part over here is true, then I will do what is inside of the if statement over here. If it is not true, if it's false, then I will skip the indented part if condition is not true. If not true. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. And so let's go back to the code for a moment just to see exactly what was going on. Let me rerun it. I click, and right now my radius is 18. Over here, it checks. So when I click, I do the on mouse press. It changes where the plunger top is. It changes the balloon radius, adds 10, and then it's going to check. If the radius is bigger than 210, I'll make the balloon false, and I'll say pop. But it's not, so it just skipped that part of the code. If I click again, even if I click a whole bunch, it keeps skipping that part of the code because the balloon radius is still not greater than 210. Right now, it's currently only 98. You can see in the top right corner there. As I keep clicking, it gets bigger and bigger. 146, 162, 170, 78, 86, 194. As soon as I click here, it's going to pop. What? 202. Oh, 210, not 200. When I click here, it's going to pop because as soon as the radius became more than 210, now it runs this code in here. Balloon.visible equals false, and the label is pop. Let's say I did something like this. If I mess with my indentation, well, what's going to happen there is the label pop is no longer inside of the if statement. So it's just going to run no matter what. It's going to go from line 12. It's going to skip line 13 because at the beginning of the program, the radius is not more than 210, but it will run line 14. So that's why this indentation becomes more and more important as we get further into programming Python. It lets the code know if, what that line is supposed to be a part of. Is it part of the if statement, or is it only just inside of the on mouse press function? If I run this now, as soon as I click the first time, it says pop because that pop label is not inside of the if statement. And then I'm like creating a million pops. You can kind of see it getting distorted and weirdly bold. So just as a full overview, the way that an if statement works, and you can put these outside of functions, inside of functions. You can put if statements inside of if statements. You can put one after the other. The way an if statement works is you have to say if, a condition, colon, and then you indent, and whatever you have indented underneath that if statement will run as long as the condition is true, and if the condition is false, it will skip that. And this lets you decide different things that you want to do in your program. I guess that's it for this first video. I don't want to go too crazy on the ifs. There's a lot more to talk about with if statements.